This week's guest is presented to you by Bertarelli Cutlery. Marco Bertarelli at Bertarelli Cutlery has been in the knife sharpening business for decades. It's a family-owned business straight from the mother country of Italy. Marco is a dear friend, and they've been a partner with Illinois Recovery Center and offering second chance jobs for folks that are leaving treatment and looking for work. Please check them out at bertarellico.com. That's BERTARELLICO.com. And you can always find them and their retail store at 1927 Marconi Avenue on the Hill in St. Louis, Missouri. bertarellicutlery.com.
Hey guys, this is Jeff, the producer. Hey, before we begin, this episode includes discussions about suicide. If this topic is distressing for you, please take care while listening. Skip this episode if needed, or reach out for support. If you or someone you know is struggling, resources are available. In the U.S., you can reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988.
I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. Yeah. React if you have to. Yeah. Don't know the time, yeah. Just know that I'm, one of a kind, What's on your mind, We're hard to find, Beautiful mind, Still in my prime, Just know that I'm,
What's up, everybody? Pond Office Anonymous, episode 7, I think.
Yeah, 7. We're here.
Season 2, though.
This is flying by so far.
No headphones. Are the cameras on?
The cameras are
Oh,
on.
did we tell you that?
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
You look beautiful. You look
Right.
like you're ready for camera.
Oh,
So, yeah.
I planned that.
All right. Tina Meier's our guest.
Yes.
Founder of the Megan Meier Foundation, which I don't know if excited is. I'm excited to talk about the foundation, and but I know it's really hard stuff. So yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And we have Ken Iggy Strode, who has been a champion of the foundation, who got introduced us through a cult radio show we used to all participate in, and Iggy's got a face for radio, so here you are on camera.
Put me on camera. Thanks for inviting me.
Iggy,
Thanks for coming, guys.
I have a mutual friend. I reached out. I said, hey, what do you know about this Iggy guy? And she said,
Oh, it's a she?
she said, he's harmless.
Tell him who
You
it
have to
was.
tell me who it was.
Learn.
Oh.
Listen,
She may have said other things too, but I'm just going to leave it at that.
I love Learn. She is the coolest chick I know.
She's so cool. I love her.
this is so funny because it was organic. Jeff is like, I'm friends with Learn. And I asked her, because you said that your friend Iggy's been in radio forever, if she knew him, and I just let it breathe. I was like, it's a whole thing on the show. They're close pals, and there's a shtick and a whole thing. And you got her a gift, right?
I get her a gift for her birthday and Christmas every year.
That's right. Yeah. And so it's people
She never gives me anything, but I give her a gift every year.
holding out hope, baby.
Maybe this year.
Learn. She filled in on. We did that golf tournament one time, and they put her in front of a text line that gets pretty. We don't have a text line here, Tina.
Pretty raunchy.
It does. I don't
Okay.
know. Yeah, it does. Good-hearted people, but
Are you one of them?
I'll take the fifth. Maybe.
I've looked at all of the stuff on Facebook and things from him with the radio. So yeah, I'm
Sure.
that doesn't shock
And
me.
you've been on it. You've
Yeah.
talked about the foundation
Yeah.
before. Are you? You're not Harrison Brothers Master, are you? You're not a texter, are you? Okay.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
No, he complained. He said, "Guy, we have to hear about Gobble Bowl again today."
Oh, right.
I said, "Sorry, dude. It's a charity. If it bothers you, I apologize."
Oh boy, yeah. You could cure cancer, and there'd be people that would complain. But I got to know you and your foundation through the radio show, and this is a recovery podcast, typically, but not always. We like to focus on mental health, and I think this is pretty. Why me and Iggy were talking, it's important, is because it's pretty recovery adjacent. When kids go through it, as your daughter did. So, just diving right in, you want to introduce yourself and the foundation and talk a little bit about Megan?
Sure. So my name is Tina Meier. It's Meier and Merriweather. I'm married. But I...
Is the gentleman in Italy?
Yeah.
That's what
Derek,
you're talking. Okay,
yeah.
so yeah, I want to make it clear how jealous I am that.
Yeah.
And her husband is one of the greatest people you ever meet.
And he's having a
love
ball
that
in
guy.
Italy, and you're
I
at Illinois Recovery Center doing a podcast in a prison ward studio.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. He really is, and it's for work. So, yeah, I mean, but he still gets to go. He said he had the best gelato of his life tonight. So I'm like, yeah,
Maybe we shouldn't talk about it because now I'm starting to get angry. Yeah, good for him.
I know. I thought I turned my watch off on mute, but I think I turned it on.
Oh, good.
So you
All
wouldn't
good.
keep hearing the dings.
It's all good.
All good. We are a unedited kind of clown show. So,
Well, then I'll fit in.
so he's in Italy, but you came in all the way from St. Peter's, which is about an hour drive during rush hour. So I can't thank you enough for the commitment, and excited to tell people that listen about the foundation, and then we can get onto the why and why it's so important to talk about.
Yeah, so I started the foundation in December of 2007, and my daughter, it was because of my daughter Megan. So, I think, when you're young, you kind of envision what you think your life is going to be, right? And, you kind of go down that path, whether you're in a relationship or you have kids or you're in a job, and you kind of are just full force. And then when tragedy hits, you know what, you've seen it on the news, other people going through it, and you're like, there's no way I could survive. I couldn't go through this. How are people dealing with it? And you always are like, just please make my family okay, right? Please keep my kids okay. And when tragedy hits, there's not a roadmap of what to do or how to do it. I mean, grief and trauma, and it's individualized for each person, right? And I think that, I wish there was a better path, but there's not. It's not like, okay, you take these 10 steps and you're going to feel better.
Right.
Right.
If only.
Yeah. Right. And I think for me with Megan, I knew after everything happened with Megan, which I'll explain, I didn't want to keep quiet about things that are uncomfortable for people, right? That I knew talking about this subject was not going to be easy, but I felt it was so important to talk about it. And I thought in the beginning, if I could just go to a couple of schools, right? If I could just go help a few people, like I would feel like I did what I needed to do. And this many years later, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface, right? I'm like, all right, we have not done anything yet to date. There is so much more to do. But, to kind of backtrack, my daughter Megan, is the whole foundation was started because of Megan was born on November 6th of 1992, my firstborn. And of course, I thought I was going to be the perfect mom because I was going to learn from everybody's mistakes, right? Like I was going to do it differently. And she was born, and this was a kid that from the moment she was born was 9 pounds. She was into everything. She was kind of like, she was sweet and wonderful and great and giggled, but she was also so curious about things that I was always behind her, right? Mm-hmm. And Megan, growing up, was taller than other kids, bigger than other kids. And when she went into kindergarten, she looked like a second grader. So when she stood at the bus stop, she looked like a much older kid. Well, when you go into kindergarten, she's standing next to all these other kids her age. And then other kids started noticing or saying things because kids just say stuff, and it's then you're tall, you're a giant. And then it was when they would sit down on the ground, your legs are big, right? And then it became, you have thunder thighs, and it just started with some of these names. And I was always one of those parents that thought, I'm not gonna let them like, oh, every name somebody calls you, that's the worst thing in the world, right? It's not okay. But I was always taught to, Tina, be the better person, look the other way, just kind of move on, go find the positive in things, right? So when Megan would come home, I would say, Megan, honey, just ignore them. Go hang out with the other kids that are nice. Kids say some things that are hurtful and mean, right? Well, it continued to go on until third grade, and Megan came home and was crying, and I couldn't get her to sleep, and she said she wanted to kill herself. And
wow. Third grade?
Third grade, yeah. And I panicked. I left her.
Just you saying that, I feel like I got hit by a truck. Like,
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
But she's still a baby.
What grade is your
Right.
son?
Fifth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
right. You're thinking that something's not fair. They didn't get a snack. They didn't do well on a test, right? They didn't get invited to a party. But that. And I was definitely a very overprotective mom. And so when this happened, I did leave her in her bedroom crying because it was that much shock and panic that I took off running into my bedroom. And I closed the door, I grabbed a pillow, I went into my bathroom, and I was like sobbing and screaming in a pillow, like, what do I do? And, do I call 911? Do I call her pediatrician? Like, I don't know what to do. And then sometimes as parents, we get this thing of like, you're overreacting. You're exaggerating, Tina. Like, she doesn't even know what this means. She had to have overheard it, right? And so I went back into her room and I'm like, Meg, honey, why would you say this? And she said, Mom, because everybody hates me. I hate myself. I said, Meg, do you even know what this means? She knew exactly what it meant. God. I slept with her that night because I was scared. And the next morning I woke up and I arrived at her pediatrician's office before the man even got in the door. And I followed him from the parking lot into the office. And my feeling was like, I thought, just take her. Like, take her and see what's going on, because I don't know what to do. Like, I wasn't prepared for this. And he said, Tina, she needs to go to a psychiatrist, psychologist. She needs to be evaluated. And I was naive at the time. I said, okay.
And terrified.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Inside, my whole entire body was shaking. And I thought, okay, give me the names because I'm going there right now.
Right.
Like, that's where I'm going. And he gave me a list. And I called all the people on the list, and it was private pay only, not accepting new patients, 5 and under, eating disorders, boys. I mean, you name it. And then I called St. Louis Children's Hospital, got a list from them, did the same thing. Next day had calls and went through the majority of all of this, or 9-month wait list, or you have to go through this and get this referral. And
It's
it was
so frustrating because it hasn't changed much.
No, it's not changed much.
Yeah,
no.
Even for adults, like, it's really hard to find psychiatrists, psychologists, really hard.
It is. And you can go into counseling, but unless you have a diagnosis, what counseling are you supposed to be going into, right? And what types of therapies? So I finally got her in to a place, and it was like a 3-month wait still at that point. And I was petrified.
You're like, now we need to get this fixed. Absolutely. I can't, right. A 3-month wait seems like eternity.
It was. I was like, I'll sell anything. I don't care what I need to do. I just want her to be a happy 3rd grade kid.
Sure.
And so during the 3 months, I parented completely out of fear. I did everything backwards, upside down, wrong that you could possibly do. I stood over her basically because I was so scared. I had my husband at the time, her dad, change the locks on the door so she could not lock the inside of the door. I didn't let her spend the night at other people's houses. I monitored if she went and took a bath. I sat outside the bathroom door while she was taking it, and if I didn't hear anything for a while, I
Tina.
would like, hey, Meg, and I didn't want her to know, so I would like bring up something, right? Hey, do you need a towel? Do you need something? And it was my whole time, and I didn't want to tell other people either, really, because I told my best friend. But even good-hearted people, even family, they all have their own opinions, right?
Sure.
Well, if you weren't so lenient, right? Or if you weren't so strict. Well, if you would monitor what they eat or the time they go to sleep, or if you wouldn't do this. And I didn't want to be judged because I felt so much shame in and of itself that like I was failing her. Like, you should be able to help your kids. And I'm thinking, how can I not make her happy? Like, what am I doing wrong? Because it felt like everybody was doing everything right, and I was the one that was screwing it all up. And my whole thought was, if I could just get her in there, I'll figure out what the answer is, and then we'll go through. My thing is like, give me the answers and the solutions, because then I'm going to follow the steps, right? Well, it doesn't quite work that way, right? And so she was finally diagnosed with depression and ADHD. And
third grade is like 9, right?
yeah,
Because I'm just doing math on my 11-year-old. Yeah, so.
and yeah, she was, I thought, depression. I mean, we didn't talk about that in my house. It wasn't like people were really diagnosed with that.
Sure.
And at least in my family.
Right. No, I think you're 27, 28 years old.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Double that again. And,
generationally, when you're growing up, it wasn't, you go out and don't come back till you're happy. I mean, they throw you outside and it wasn't a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 54, and, my childhood was different. That's a whole nother probably podcast.
We could do an episode next week on that. Yeah,
my dad had a grand mal seizure when I was 9 in front of us, and found out he had a brain tumor. And they said he only had 6 months to live, but he did live for 6 years. And then my brother had a brain tumor, like 2 years after my dad did.
So Trauma is your middle name.
Yeah.
Got it. Tina Trauma Meier. Wow.
So, yeah, we did. There was none of that. Our whole world was filled with just all of those things, right?
Imagine what you were going through, and they just didn't have barely scraping the surface now, especially on adolescents and kiddos.
Right.
I just remember going through the IEP process for my son's ADHD and how hard that is.
Yeah.
So she's diagnosed depressed, ADHD,
right.
9 years old.
Yeah, and I thought, okay.
What do they
do? Do therapy. Well, they prescribe medication.
Well, I know the ADHD side just from experience, but is there psychotropic meds for adolescents for depression?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they wanted to start that, but I was scared. I'd heard back then talking about ADHD was these are just kids that don't learn as well in class. They kind of are all over the place. They're forgetful, but I didn't want her to be a zombie.
Sure.
So I thought, of course, okay, we'll do therapy, but like, I'm going to get this figured out. Like, I can make her happy. So I thought I did all of the things of, Megan, do you want to have friends come over? We'll go to the mall. We'll go do this. Or, hey, let's go do a movie night. And I thought I could create all of these things to make her happy. And it was finally, there was 2 times. One, we were at the mall, and she saw these other girls that were like a year older than her walk by, and she was with her friends. And it was the look that she had of like, she felt so inferior to them that she almost kind of like melted in the chair. And from that point, I could not get her to be happy, smile, anything. And the other time was Six Flags. I took her and several girls to the water park there, and she was so excited. And we went and she took, they take off their cover-ups and they put them in the little lockers and they get their towel. And the second she took off her cover-up, and then it was like she looked at herself and looked at the other girls, and it was an instant change in her personality. And she grabbed a towel, wrapped it around her, everything changed, would not talk. And when Megan closed down, Megan locked down. And she sat on the chair. She did not want to swim, didn't want to do anything. And it was at that point that I'm like, okay, I can't keep going through this. So I took her out of school on a Friday and I started the medicine. And then I wanted to see how she did Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I was just scared. And the medicine through that and the therapy, I guess helped. But it was really from third grade going into fourth grade, she had this phenomenal teacher who sometimes when you get those teachers that really find the special things in your kids and can connect, they are different kids.
This hits so close to home, 100%. I get it.
And I was like, finally, she seemed happy and was making friends. And I thought maybe she's doing really well. But there was still always this thing with Megan of her body image compared to the other girls. So
At this age too, she's so young. It's
it is.
You're how old is your daughter?
She's 9, so around the same age.
Yeah. It's hard.
God.
Oh, it's scary,
And they, for her, I think Megan was, because again, she wasn't tiny and petite compared to the other girls, but I used to I was told by the doctor, like, if they struggling with self-worth, get them involved in extracurricular activities, right? I tried horseback riding to ice skating lessons to volleyball to softball to piano lessons to cooking lessons. I mean, you name it. I tried everything I could, and Megan was really good in the beginning. I'd buy all the stuff, sign her up. She was great. And then once it became a little bit more work, Megan was like, yeah, I'm done. Right? So it was really hard to get her connected. But I think she always looked at the kids that she so-called thought were popular, which they know popular kids, right? Who wants to be invited to their party and who wears the cute clothes and what boys talk to those girls more and who's going to get to sit next to them at lunch or out in the playground, right? So Megan always was trying to figure out how to be funny or goofy or bring things to them to get them to accept her. And, she wasn't one of those kids that if people said, oh, could the teachers have seen she was getting picked on? No, they couldn't have, because she did have friends. Megan kept it quiet most of the time. It was usually the comments, the rude things, the things that would happen, not big and broad. She wasn't beat up. She wasn't sitting in the corner by herself. But she had those constant daggers and name calls.
That's what I
and
was thinking. They were...
but then she would try to bring them scented markers, right, or some goofy things. And then they would be nice to her for the day. And then when they were nice to her, then Megan thought they were friends. And then when that kind of wore off, then she was back to annoying. And it was this roller coaster. And, into fifth grade, Megan started doing what a lot of kids will do, which is standing up for the other kids that struggled even more than her. So she was that champion, but she didn't stand up for herself. And we now go into sixth grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. These are really hard years for kids. They always talk about the peak of 6th grade, or the peak of bullying is the spring of 6th grade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they're in traditional, if they're in kindergarten through 5th and elementary, that's a little bit more protected.
Sure.
But now you go into middle school, these feeder elementaries come in together. And typically you've got that first part of the year, but then when after the holidays and that spring starts to hit, you've got that long haul. And now parents and kids have tried many different things throughout the year. And when those things don't work, all of a sudden the parents really start seeing them, not wanting to go to class, their grades dropping. They start seeing a lot of this happening.
That's really interesting, the timing. I mean, has it got anything, you throw in puberty, that's everybody's going through it. Where I grew up, we were K through 8 in one school. And now living over in St. Louis, it's K through 5 in the 5th grade. And then he goes 6th, 7th, 8th, and then to high school. So it all is resonating and makes complete sense now when you peel the onion back that
Right.
this can be, I mean, a horrible time, and it's interesting. So thanks for sharing. Sorry.
Yeah, I think a lot of times I think the spring is always the hardest for really kids in any grade, honestly. And it's because the start of school, everybody's kind of geared up like it's going to be a better year, right? They've had a break. And then they go through the year and then some things happen, but they tell the teacher or tell a principal or they tell parents or, and they kind of try to put like little Band-Aids on these things. And then once it gets to a point where it feels like it's not working, it's still happening, they really then start struggling and feeling like, okay, no one's listening. Parents get upset. It really kind of all comes out, and we always get the majority of our calls during this time. Like from the end of January, typically all the way through to the end of the school year.
When you say get calls, this is to the foundation?
Yeah, we get calls typically from parents most of the time that are usually at this point of it's been going on since the fall. It's been going on since this. We've tried this. We've tried that. Nothing is working. And my kid doesn't want to go to school. They've gone up and they've gotten really frustrated or mad at the school, right? The school doesn't want to talk to me anymore. The schools, and it just turns into this big, huge bubble that is going to burst, right? And so we try to listen to them, validate how they're feeling because they want to be heard.
Absolutely.
And then a lot of it is then trying to find out what is it that they're wanting, right? What does that look like? Whether the child to stay in school and it's working with the school, is it you're wanting to move your child to a different school within the same district? Because we want to know how to be able to best support them.
Okay.
And so what we do is we're not attorneys. We don't provide, clinical advice because I'm not a therapist, but we will try to connect them. Do they need supports? And And so we really work with them and then try to provide them steps and supports and how to work with the school and how to work with their child. But it's hard.
Well,
parents are scared.
You have, you may not have, and we've heard Eric here at IRC. We always kind of laugh a bit out of Jacob. You may not have the, clinical schooling, but the street experience is invaluable, and putting it to work for what you went through is what a gap you're filling for parents that need outlets. I think that's incredible. And I want you to continue, and we'll really get into the foundation and the mission and how we can all help. But continue if you don't mind on Megan's story, because as hard as it is, it's super important.
Yeah, and that's why my purpose, so people know, it's never for pity, ever.
You don't come off like
no. I don't like pity. I'm not. I've always, since the beginning, my aunt pushed this with me of every time you go somewhere, if maybe there's a parent listening, maybe there's a kid, a teacher, an aunt, uncle, somebody that's listening that maybe something resonates, right? And so if it does, and then you can help somebody, right? And it's the one by one. And so it truly is why I keep this many years, still keep doing it and talking about it, because, people struggle and they don't know what to do, and so for us with Megan, she entered 6th grade, and, Megan was this kid that always felt like, even though she had friends, her whole goal was those popular kids because they were the ones that controlled everything. That's what she felt. And she thought if they would accept her, they would stop making fun of her, right? And she would say, oh, they're my friend's mom, because I'd say, Megan, stop giving them stuff, right? Stop. If they're mean, don't talk to them. Just ignore them. Leave them alone. Right. Megan's like, Mom, you don't get it. You don't understand. They are my friends. And it's really hard. It's hard to try to convince them that they're using you, right? Mm-hmm. 7th grade, it was horrible. Megan, not too long into 7th grade, would start crying, going to school, start crying, coming home from school. I noticed one day that she didn't have money in her lunch account. And of course, I felt like the worst parent in the world. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it's at 0. And so I ran up to her school and I went to hurry up and put money in there. And I saw her sitting at a table that all with other kids, but she had a water bottle and a napkin. And I did not want to embarrass her. So I said to the secretary, hey, listen, I don't know if she's not eating because I forgot to put money in her account. I feel horrible. Can you please go let her know? And so I thought, okay, fine. She went and let her know. She probably got lunch. She comes home and I asked her, hey, did you get lunch? She's like, oh, yeah. And I said, oh, because there wasn't money in the account. I completely forgot. And she said, oh, yeah, yeah. And I said, Megan, did you eat lunch? Yeah, I said, and it was the way she was saying it.
You knew.
And I'm like, what is going on? What is happening? And I thought, honestly, she was doing the girl diet, the restricting diet. I did it in 7th grade too. Way back in the day, they would probably put my mother behind bars for allowing this, but I ate baby food for a solid 30 days.
Really? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Because my goal in 7th grade was there was a store called 5, 7, and 9. And all of the girls, if you were in that clique, you wore a size 0.
Oh, boy.
My goal was size 0 because then I felt like I was part of that group, right? And so I thought this is maybe what is going on. Well, when I pressed her more, which it was hard to do with her because she locked down on me, she finally told me what was going on. She said the boys, which these were the popular boys, that the same boys for years and years, would stomp behind her in the lunch line, calling her a fat cow and an elephant making animal noises. And that's why she stopped eating lunch. And of course,
But damn, I would
my
too.
brain, right.
Fuck.
At the time, my whole brain was like, it was frustrating for me because I was like, Megan, I told you, just ignore them. If you would leave them alone, stay away from them, they would leave you alone. And Megan looked at me and said, Mom, could you do that if it was you? And it was one of those things where I was like, it stops you in your track. Like, you say all these things to your kids and it's from like what you know, what you grew up with. But then I was like, no.
It's like a profoundly response for a girl that has gone through it all, and to say that in the place of hurt it came from, to try to spell it out to you.
Right.
Yeah, it's like profound, but boy, it cuts deep.
Yeah, I mean, I felt god awful because I'm like, I have been telling her this. I've always been the type of person of, I'm not going to be the one of, it's not my child is perfect. No, I knew my kids were not perfect. So I never wanted to be one of those parents. I wanted to be, if you did something wrong, like, you need to be held accountable, right? Mm-hmm. If kids are being mean, you go and hang out with the kids that are nice or decent. Sure. There's always going to be ignorant kids, right? Well, so I said, okay, I'm sorry. Like, I've been telling you to ignore them this whole time. But then I did the complete flip of, because then as parents, we have to have control some way, right? Mm-hmm. So then my control to fix it was, I'm going to go to the school. This is not okay. You can't keep going through this. And Megan grabbed me by the arm, begged me not to go to the school. She's like, Mom, you don't get it. You don't understand. It's going to make it worse. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And she said, nothing. I will handle it on my own. And she was still going to counseling. And I thought, I know I have to let her make mistakes. I know I cannot fix everything for her. And so I thought, okay. I said, but if this keeps happening, I have to do something. Well, it got worse. Her grades plummeted. Girls, later, afterwards, I didn't know then, said that she would take zeros in gym. I found out later that she forged my name for gym and brought ace bandages to wrap her ankle because during gym, the boys thought it was funny to run next to her and grab their legs and shake their legs. And see, here's the thing that this is why bullying is so complex, right? Because it's not always out there, visible for everybody to see. It happens little by little by little, and it builds. And when kids know what triggers you, what gets under your skin, what bothers you, it doesn't take much because it can be this kid and then they say, hey, did you know so-and-so? They walk by, they mock, they laugh. So it's just these layers that keep happening. And Megan did not want to sign up for gym. And I could not get her to hardly go to school. She begged me to pull her out of the school. And it wasn't that the school was horrible. It was that schools they have to be able to give education to kids, right? They can apply consequences if they know what's going on. But also there's all these steps and procedures and there's all kinds of things with all of that. But the reality is that they cannot change another child's behavior. Right? They can't follow that kid around. You have no clue what the parents think or what's going on there. Sure. And so I knew nothing was going to change. And I thought if I could switch her to a different school for 8th grade, maybe she would have a fresh start, maybe a smaller school. And so we did. We switched her to a private school for her 8th grade year. And it was not that I thought private school was going to be perfect. I just knew they all had to wear the same thing. Right? It was a much smaller school, and I thought maybe a fresh start. Going into 8th grade over that summer, Meg and I started going to work out just to try to, because I'd always struggled with weight my whole life, it was never diet, never anything. It was like, let's just be healthy. Let's go for a walk. Let's go do this. So we would do that, and she was feeling better about herself. And going into that summer, the end of the new school year, she had started a volleyball team. She started hanging out with new friends, and she started really looking at herself in a different way. Not like she thought she was this beautiful person, but it's like all of those name tags for so long, it was like she was taking some of those off. And I thought back when, we had cameras, it was digital cameras, and that you had to do the reverse in the bathroom mirror is what they did. Those pictures, she took tons of selfies back in the day. And I thought finally it was this deep breath of okay, she's happy, she's doing well. 8th grade started. 8th grade year started, and that's when MySpace and AOL Instant Messenger were out. And that's when everybody wanted to be a part of it. And, the rule was you were supposed to be 14 years old at the time. Megan begged me to have an account, and I said no. I watched Dateline and How to Catch a Predator back then with Chris Hansen. Yes.
Still watch those shows.
Yeah.
Dateline it's like I watch Dateline every Friday night, and then on the channel it's always on. My wife makes fun of me. She'll be reading a book, and I just want to watch murder. It's like
I know. My husband said if there's anything that happens, I'm going to tell everybody to watch her because she watches way too many of these shows.
You know how to, you're like telling, don't do that. You're going to get caught. Yeah,
right,
yelling
exactly.
at the TV. Yeah.
But
MySpace, man. And that was the first, wasn't it? The
it really was.
Of the social media.
Right. Yeah.
And it was I don't think I ever had a MySpace. I think Facebook was in 2008. I think I joined it, but you had to have a .edu. Yeah, I was going to college to get Facebook.
Right.
And MySpace, they were letting. She was how old when she got a MySpace page?
13.
And anybody, I guess, I don't. But I do remember that being the big.
Yeah, if you could get online, you could get an account. There was nothing that was. Yes, they clicked the box for terms of service and said, So,
yeah, that's right.
yeah. Mm-hmm. And I said, Meg, like, no, they're sexual predators. I never thought of bullying or cyberbullying. It was sexual
That's
predators.
who it was. The boogeyman was the
Yeah.
kidnap. Yeah, right.
And I knew my kid. I knew Megan, even though she was doing good, I knew that for her, she would always push the envelope, right? Like, if there was somebody being nice, Megan was not gullible and ditzy in any ways, but that acceptance, that wanting to be accepted by people, I knew that was my concern with her. So
Yeah, it was a driving. I can see that.
Oh, yeah.
Going through, all the shit she's been through.
yeah, and I'm thinking, you are doing well now, like. And she begged, and Megan was relentless, believe me.
And all the other kids have it, right?
Yes, of course. So I made up some rules, and the rules would not work in today's world because this was dial-up back then, right?
Yeah.
I can hear the
Oh, God,
the
yeah.
modem sound.
Yeah. So I said, you can have the account, but I have the password. You do not have your password to your account. The profile had to be kept private. I had to prove anybody on her page. Computers were like an open space. She wasn't allowed to have a computer in her bedroom. And because of watching those shows, I even purchased a little disc that you could put, and it would monitor every instant message and every website she went on, because back then we didn't have that, right?
Right.
I told her about all of these things, and she told me I was a warden of a prison. Like, there was no other parent as horrible as I was.
Sure.
Yes, I know. I'm not doing it to be mean.
Those are hard to hear as a parent too. I give in. My
It's
weak
hard.
spot is if Charlie, if he gets, and he starts, he knows what he's doing too. It's like it's this little cry, I'm like, shit.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, here's $50. I'm a big sap, like when it comes to that. So
It is so hard.
prison warden's tough. That's a
Yeah.
tough.
She told me that forever, because I was the mom that didn't let her just go spend the night at somebody's house or just let her go to the mall, because I always knew Megan from the jump. That kid was gone, right?
Sure.
So I knew if it was a mall, and I would say, Meg, do not go outside the doors. That kid would have walked right outside the doors if that's where everybody else was going, right? Or she would have been the leader. So I always was that mom. And I let her have this account, and I was learning as she was going, right? She knew how to do all of this stuff. So I would sit next to her. I would log her on. She could not see the password, and she created this account. And, for the first, week or so, things were great. And then she got a friend request from a boy by the name of Josh Evans. And Megan was boy crazy. Jesse McCartney was splattered all over her walls back in the day.
Who's Jesse McCartney? Why am I?
He used to be an actor. I think he sang back in the day.
It's a little blonde kid.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's
she
probably
had-
like a boy bander
He's
or
a full adult by now. So.
Oh yeah, he's full on
Okay.
adult. Yeah, he had blonde hair, but she
he
loved.
was the
Tiger
Yeah.
Beat
Yeah.
kind of deal,
the George Clooney of 2000s, was it? 2000.
2006.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she loved Destiny's Child back in the day.
I know
and
them.
She loved
All right, I feel
Bow
better.
Wow,
Yeah.
and she loved
Oh wow. Okay.
everything. So I, when she was on there and she was creating all of this stuff, it was kind of like, okay, things are going really well. Well, this friend request that came in, this boy, he had brown, I still can, in my head, I know exactly what, if you showed me 10,000 pictures, I could pick them out. And the picture was this good looking, kind of a chiseled face, looked like a teenage boy. And she's like, Mom, he asked to be friends. Can I add him, please? He is so hot. I'm like, Meg, do you know him? Is he a friend of a friend? She's like, Mom, I don't know. He's just hot, please. And I said, okay, here's the thing, Meg, I'm going to let you add him. But anything negative, anything sexual, he's deleted immediately. And absolutely, I know it sounds crazy, like saying it. And I know being the parent on the other side, I would be like, well, there you go, lady, right? Come on. What is your problem? Why would you let her add somebody?
It's so easy to
that-
fucking judge from
It is.
afar.
Yeah.
It is, but that's
no idea.
people do backseat drive, and they stand in their own world and judge others, right?
All day long. I get it.
I did it because I knew my kid. If I said no, she thought this boy was hot. Even with dial-up back then, Megan would have gone to the library. Megan would have gone to a friend's house. All you had to do was create it in somebody else's, right?
Yeah.
I knew for sure that kid would have done it. And I thought, at least if I monitor it, I'm here, I've got the password, I could monitor it, right? Josh and her became friends. Well, so-called friends, right? They talked back and forth, and I was the mom that, do not put where you go to school, do not put any type of your uniform logo on it. They can pinpoint where you're at, don't talk about the mall, you name it. I lectured all the time. But Josh, told her she was pretty and she had beautiful eyes and she thought he was cute. And again, during the same time, she was not sitting in her room like this was her whole world, right? She was going to the movies, going to football games, playing volleyball, doing really well, but he thought she was cute and she thought he was hot. So they started talking, and probably several weeks start going on, and she's talking to her other friends, and now we're getting ready it's October 15th, 2006, and her birthday is going to be coming up on November 6th. And this night, Sunday night, she asked me if I could sign her on to the computer. So I signed her on, and there was a message from Josh Evans that said to her, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. You're not a nice person. And it wasn't a horrible message, right? It was just kind of like, what? And she looked at me and she's like, what does that mean? I'm like, honey, I don't know. You have to ask him. I mean, maybe, I have no clue. Mm-hmm. Maybe they had a bad day, right? So she said, where'd you get this from? And then there was no response. And she was talking to her other friends and she was trying to talk to them about her birthday party and what she wanted to do. And I said, Meg, you need to get ready to sign off. And she said one more message to him of, where'd you get this from? But still no response. So I signed her off, or I made sure she logged off, because I knew that kid, that if I did not, she would come back or sneak back down into the kitchen or wherever the computer was at. So the next day I take her to school. She stops that morning to go get Hershey candy bar, because she would break apart pieces, give stuff to kids at school, right? And I go to pick her up that day. She was in a great mood. She had handed out her birthday invitations. Everything was great. I come home. It's pouring down rain. But the second we walked in the door now, she wants to get onto MySpace. She wants to see, did he respond, right? So I signed her on. I said, but you've got a few minutes. I've got to take your sister to the orthodontist when she gets off the bus. Her sister was in 5th grade at the time. And so when I signed her on, the messages came from Josh that said, you heard me. No one likes you. No one wants to be your friend. And Megan started responding back of, why are you saying this? Where are you getting this from? Who's telling you this? And then I ran to keep checking see if my daughter's bus was there. And so as I come in, I heard the bus, but it was like pouring buckets of rain. And I said, Meg, you've got to sign off. I've got to go. And she said, Mom, please let me finish this last message, and I will. Typically, I never did that. Her dad was upstairs sleeping. He would go to work early in the morning. I left, but I called her from the orthodontist office after I checked my daughter in, and I was like, hey, Meg, what's going on? She's like upset and crying. I said, what is going on? And she said, Mom, they're saying horrible things. I'm like, who? And she said, on MySpace. I said, Megan, I told you to get off MySpace. I told you to sign off. Get off. I will be home. I called probably 20 minutes later again. She was sobbing to the point I couldn't even hardly understand her. And I said, Meg, please sign off. I will be home. And going home as a parent, sometimes you're just like, shit. I've got the 5th grader in the car. She's crying because they tightened up her braces. We've got homework. Megan's at home crying. We've got dinner. So I come through the door. I run in where Megan was at. She's sobbing at the computer. And I said, get up, let me see what is going on. So I started looking at messages from Josh to Megan, Megan to Josh, and now 2 other girls got involved. And these messages that went back and forth were, you know, Megan Meier's a fat ass, Megan Meier's a whore. But then Megan was defending herself, saying, I'm not this, you're that.
Are these public, like on the public side of things, or are these in the instant or the
Not in
messenger
DMs.
side?
No, it was no. This wasn't even on AOL Instant Messenger at the time. This was just on.
This is on the wall or
Yeah.
whatever it was. Yeah.
And back then, because it wasn't that thing of you don't put your name out there, you don't do it. They used first
Jeff's
names,
getting
last names.
enraged.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell he's getting enraged the way he asked that question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just all back then. It was just all out there because it wasn't like don't do this or you can get in trouble, right? And so Megan started calling them names back, and I looked at it and I'm like, damn it, Meg. I told you if you would have signed off, we could have dealt with this differently. But now you're calling them names, they're calling you names. I said, it turned into this war of words. If you would have signed off, we could have dealt with it differently. And she said, Mom, you don't understand. And I said, Meg, you're not any of these things that they're calling you. And she said, Mom, it's going to everybody at my old school. Everybody at my new school, no one's going to believe me. She said, you're supposed to be my mom. You're supposed to be on my side. And the phone rang, and it was one of her friends, and Megan was crying, and she said, I have to call you back because I didn't see it at the time. She had messaged to some of her friends of like, hey, help me. They're saying these things about me. She ran upstairs, and I was still trying to get a grasp of what was going on. And then her dad came down. He had talked to her for a second at the top of the stairs, but she went in her bedroom, slammed the door. And then he started talking, and we started arguing about it because he's like, she doesn't need to be online, and I don't know what's going on. And it was probably maybe 20 minutes went by, and I just got this feeling that rushed through my whole body. And I took off running upstairs to the room. I opened her door and found her hanging in her closet.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I screamed. Ron came up, got her down, and I tried dialing 911, but as I was dialing 911, my daughter that was across the street was calling at the same time, and I'm screaming to get off the phone, to hang up, and trying to get a dial tone to call them. And she runs home in the midst of it and sees Megan and sees her dad giving her CPR, and I screamed to her to go run down the street to our neighbor's house, our best friends, and they came up, and the son started helping. He was 16, and I knew that he had just learned CPR from being a swim instructor. And so it was like Megan's brother. He started giving her CPR, and the paramedics came. They got her heart started and breathing. Could not airlift her because of the weather. So they had a transport from St. Joe's and Lake St. Louis down to Children's and in ICU. But, you know, it was kind of an up and down. There wasn't a lot of hope, really. There was a few pieces where they thought maybe there's some brain activity. But it was evident almost 24 hours later, her blood pressure, they tried everything. Just her organs were shutting down. And, you know, I remember she had like tears that like streamed from the side of her face. And even though there was nothing there, it happened. And I told her it was okay to go because I wasn't going to put her on life support. We weren't going to do that to her. So, we laid there and held her, and, you know, it was one of those things of like, there's no way this can be happening, right?
I don't even know what to say. You're so brave. Just I'm sure you've put the foundation. Told
I
the
don't
story
feel it.
1,000 times. I don't.
Yeah.
You said at the beginning, like all the thoughts you said at the beginning are what I'm thinking. Like I could never survive that could, you know, and
Oh, yeah.
then you get thrown into it.
Right. I mean, it's, yeah, there's no way I thought I could ever survive the thought of anything happening to my kids. Right. And so, but, you know, here's the thing. We went home and I could not go back to our house. We went back to my mom's house, but my husband at the time, her dad, Ron, and his cousin who had flown in town went back to our house to see, was there a note? Was there something? But there was nothing. And I then went and got straight onto, oh, thank you. Got straight onto the computer because I wanted to see, like, what is going on? Like, where is this Josh? Like, what happened? Now, Ron had seen that on AOL Instant Messenger, the last 2 messages that I didn't see from Josh Evans to Megan said the world would be a better place without you and have a shitty rest of your life.
I don't know your husband, your ex-husband, Ron.
Unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago.
Jesus.
Yeah, suicide.
Oh, shh.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The reason I was going to ask, like, I just picture being a dad because that's what I can empathize with. I'll never know how it feels to be a mother ever, but I believe in that motherly superpower that you guys have. We talk to moms all the time that with their loved ones that are struggling and needing to get them help, and we have the conversations about enabling, and it's always easy. I always tell them I'm in the cheap seats. I'm not a mom. What we're asking you to do for your loved one to seek treatment is to be not a mom for a minute, and it's impossible to fucking ask. So I was going to ask, is Ron like got a baseball like bat and ready, like to just go? I don't know. I
don't think Ron.
Is it more deeper than that? Like just ripped out and gutted?
Yeah, I think he was. I think I was more of, because Megan and I were so close in the MySpace thing of, like, I knew what was going on. I knew who she talked to. I knew all of those things happening, and he didn't even have the password, right? It was just me. And it was a way for her and I to really be able to talk about things or to laugh about Goofy. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't one of those things of like I was getting into this childish thing. She would just show me this new wallpaper you could put up, or she put up this little slideshow of her and her cousin picking her up.
Sounds like a good relationship.
Yeah,
to even have on something that you're concerned about.
Yeah,
you laid some ground rules, and now it's you. I mean, I don't know how you, besides not letting him have it, like you have, and it was like you were involved. Is the word I was looking for? An involved parent in something that is super risky.
Yeah,
Or now we know. Now we know.
Now we do, right?
But like if you had there's some dangers, but we're thinking the same thing. The Chris Hansen show,
right?
Not thinking that it's going to be bullying, but so you're involved, and how more involved could you be? Like you couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's either there's been a lot of people who have said, or parents especially, that are scared, right? Because they're scared of my story, right? They're scared of other stories that they hear, because I think as a parent, I always just said, please just let me know they're going to be okay, right? I know they're going to screw up. I know there's going to be things that are going to happen. I just need to know at the end of the day, they're just going to be okay.
We all say that probably every day in a prayer. He has a 4-year-old, 9-year-old, I have an 11-year-old.
Right.
Iggy did a DNA test on the radio show he was on, and they didn't find anybody yet.
No, but I have like 24 nieces, nephews, great nieces.
Right, so you know what we're talking about. Absolutely.
I say the same thing every night before I pray. I say, just please keep everybody in my family and my friends safe.
And like the helplessness that I can not imagine, and I feel it when I go through minor shit, that some tough stuff with Charlie, but I can not even register the level of like helplessness, and that's all you want is your kid to be happy.
Yeah, happy and okay. That's it.
That's
right?
it.
So
right, like never think about him being rich or owning material things. It's just happy.
Yeah, and anytime they suffer at all, it sucks. Like
it's worse.
My kid had to have 2 shots in the ass the other day. And that sucked.
Yeah.
It hurts you when they're hurt.
Yeah.
It hurts, right? When
You
somebody
feel it deep. And we're
Yes.
dads, not moms, so magnify it, multiply it by infinity.
Right, and it's why parents react the way that we react, right? When someone hurts your kid and you know they're doing it on purpose, it's like that little bastard, right?
Yeah.
You know, of like, how dare you, right? And you try to talk to the parents and the parents might blow it off, but it's like, you're so hurt. And it's why we say the dumb things that we say sometimes of like, oh, well, don't worry about it. He's dumb anyways, right? Or, we're not going to invite them to the birthday party or we say these childish things, but it's
human beings.
Yeah. Right. And so
you went back,
I wanted to know what the hell was going on. I was still in that mode of like,
sure.
I told them they're not doing an autopsy on her because you're not cutting her up like I was on the floor. And then when they said that, it was instant a mom again of like, no, you're not doing this to her. No, you're not. But we did donate. She had heart valves. So we did donate the heart valves because I wanted something. She was a giving kid. I wanted to do something. We did do that. But I wanted to know, like, what happened? What is going on with this Josh? Like, what did I miss? So I went and I logged on, and the Josh Evans account was almost at that time, it was like bits and pieces were taken down. Like, the account was starting to almost like disappear, right? And for weeks and weeks, I sat at that computer for hours and hours and hours trying to find who were the people that were on his page, who were the friends, where are the pictures at, where are the things at, where are the comments at, what did I miss? I searched for that Josh Evans, that image, that face for I can't tell you how many weeks because I thought I was going nuts, like I don't understand. And probably almost 6 weeks later, it was Thanksgiving weekend, and we got a call from a neighbor down the street. Her name was Michelle Mulford. And I knew her. Megan was the same grade as her daughter was. Her and Megan and Lori Drew was the mom. And Sarah Drew those kids were all in the same grade. We all knew of each other. She called, and I was getting ready to go to a grief support meeting by myself because
good for you.
I didn't know what to do, right? And Ron did not want to go, but I was like, I'm going. I can't function. I can't breathe. I don't want to live. I don't want to be here. And everybody's like, it's going to be okay. Bullshit, it's going to be okay, right? The things
try
that people
so
say,
hard,
they do.
but there's just I can't. Yeah.
And she said,
and you still have a daughter still. Do you have that?
Yeah. I mean, so she said, Tina, there's a really important meeting. I need you to come, and I need Ron to come. And do you have any family or anybody that can come and support you? And I was like, what?
That's odd.
Yeah.
Like, I thought, you know what? They want to be nosy. They want to know details about this shit. Like, no. I said, no, I'm going to a grief support group, and sorry. But I was like, I thought that's what people want to know. Like, they want to know the details of it, right? I'm not doing that. And I hung up the phone. I was going to be going. And then I got a call from a neighbor who was a therapist at the time, and he was doing some grief support for us. And he said, Tina, I know Michelle Mulford called you, and it's really important. I know you're going to this meeting, but I need you to cancel it. We really need you to come to this meeting. I thought, okay, fine. So, Ron,
did they tell you what?
A counselor, they just said, we need you to come to this meeting. So we called Ron's mom and stepdad. Ron and I went, and
where was it?
It was at a counselor's office in O'Fallon, Missouri. Michelle Mulford's daughter was going to a therapist. So we walk in, and I walk in, and like one of the school counselors from the middle school was there, at her old middle school was there, and there's another counselor, and then Michelle Mulford sitting there, and I walked in, and they're all in a circle, and I said, so are you here to tell me that Josh Evans' account was fake? Like, is that what you're telling me? I don't know why I said it. And Michelle Mulford shook her head and said yes. And that's when she proceeded to say, it's a long story, we could be here for 10 hours, right? Proceeded to say that her daughter, Jessica, and Lori Drew's daughter, Sarah, went to soccer practice together. They went to PSR class, which, how great is that? Catholic religion class, right? Went to that together. And what they did is they talked about how they created this fake account. They created the Josh Evans account. They did not tell the mom. They only told the daughter about this, right? And they said that they created this account because Megan was not being nice to Sarah anymore. That they heard Megan called Sarah a lesbian. I don't know if Megan did or didn't. Like, if she did talk to me, right, I would talk to Megan. But they created this account. So they had given, and this is where it gets a little confusing, they had given the password to Jessica, the little girl across the street. The night that all of this stuff was going down, the mean things that were going down, Jessica was the only one message that came anywhere from, except from the Drews' house. It came from the Drews to our house. One message came from Jessica's house. That was the message that said, you're not a nice person. I don't want to be friends with you anymore. The reason is because Megan did not add Jessica as a friend. Jessica was jealous because back in MySpace days, you had top 10 friends. Top 10 was you could move people around, right?
Oh,
so
great.
if you moved people around from 1 to 2 to 3 or what's going on, Megan moved a boy that they all went to elementary school with because she had been talking to him. He moved away, and Jessica had a crush on him. She was jealous. So she sent that first message the very first night.
From Josh Evans.
Acting as Josh Evans. The rest of all of it came back in. And what Michelle Mulford said was the way that she found out about all of this was because the night that the ambulance came down the street, Lori Drew called Michelle and said, I need to talk to Jessica, your daughter. And Jessica remembers like 13, 14 years old,
yeah.
right?
That's inappropriate.
Right?
Yeah.
She told Jessica to keep her mouth shut about the MySpace account.
Fucking
How
beautiful.
heavy is that for a 13-year-old child?
Right. And the girl didn't say anything to mom because she was hysterical, right? Yeah. And she was afraid she was going to get in trouble, and she knew she had sent the message, so she was thinking. And Michelle had said her daughter just started to crumble, right? She couldn't get her to talk. She couldn't get her to, she was freaking out, sobbing, crying, and finally got her to talk. And that's when she told her mom what Lori Drew said, told her about the car rides, all of the things that were happening. Michelle, for a solid month after she found out. Now, during this time, the Drews invited us to Sarah's birthday party, which was 3 days after Megan's, and begged us to come down to support her daughter because I thought I was doing the right thing.
So this is after
Megan died.
They're asking you to come down and
Celebrate.
they're
their
trying
daughters.
to help.
And I thought they came to Megan's wake and came to Megan's funeral.
I was just going to say that there was a funeral, a wake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even stored Christmas presents for their kids in our garage because they wanted to hide it. It was a foosball table. And she didn't want her kids to see it. So I thought I was being nice. I helped her unload it, and I covered it up with a big, like, tarp type thing so her kids wouldn't see it. Her daughter came down and would come to our house and took Allison out for Halloween, invited us to the husband's surprise birthday party. And it was always one of those things of, Tina, it would mean so much. Sarah's really struggling. It would mean so much. It would be, and so it was autopilot. You just kind of did these things. This entire time, Michelle Mulford is begging the Drews to come forward and tell us what they did. They refused to. Michelle Mulford then contacted the police department. Michelle Mulford contacted the school to talk to the priest to see if they could do something, was constantly trying to, she's like, I'm going to tell them. They cannot, I keep seeing the Drews interjecting themselves into their lives. Like, I can't watch this anymore. And she said, I'm telling you, I don't know what's going to happen. If I tell them, I don't know what they're going to do. And so I'm trying to forewarn you people, to tell you to do something, right? She tried, I mean, unfortunately, she just recently passed away. But I am forever indebted to her and her daughter for really pushing so hard. And it's finally, she told us about Lori and an 18-year-old and Sarah created a fake account. They found a boy's name, or a boy that they thought Megan would like. And they did this to make sure that, to see if Megan was talking about her daughter behind her back. That was the sole purpose in the beginning, right?
What they told you?
Yeah. And when Megan wasn't, it was a game. It was kind of like one of those things of, well, if you're not being nice to my daughter, then, aha, we're going to get you back, right? And Lori even talked about how she thought it would be funny to try to get Megan to come up to the mall to think she was going to meet Josh, and then jump out and like laugh like, ha ha, you were tricked.
The mother.
What a sick.
Yeah. So
The bukyaka.
yeah, there's a lot of words I've called every vile
C-bomb in
possible
Italian.
world. Yeah.
The Sopranos.
So they were worried about Ron at the time. And it was, I think
What do
he
you
was
mean
more
by
in
that?
shock. They were worried about Ron going down to kill them.
Yeah, that kind of what I was asking earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It was me.
sure, now I'm like thinking, you don't fuck with a tiger at her cubs, is what I hear.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, this bitch
So when you
took
say
Megan
they were
on
worried
vacations.
about this is Michelle. That
Michelle, the neighbors, people now knew that they were like, there's already been one tragedy. The family needs to know what was going on. But I'm telling you, to prevent another tragedy, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, this could be really volatile. But the police and nobody really wanted to get involved. So Michelle tried doing it in this way.
so many like ball drops here. What? So
I don't think they knew what to do at that time, right?
maybe, yeah. I guess I
know-
don't mean to be in the cheap seats, but it just seems like, and to your point with this Michelle, for staying on it, and
She was a bulldog. I mean,
God bless
she
her.
was the type that, and
to call you and ask you down for that is like a level of, we're going to tell you, how we murdered your daughter.
yeah.
Like that. Yeah. She's that.
Yeah.
I'm glad there's someone that did something fucking right in this story.
Yeah.
Because there's so much darkness in it, and you're just you and Ron are, I can't even put into words the level of devastation, and your daughter, your younger daughter, like that. There's somebody out there with some goodness.
All right.
So this was 6 weeks. You're getting ready to go to a grief support group. She calls you. You're like, no fucking way.
Right.
The counselor, the therapist that you go down to and is this Lori there?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Right.
No.
Yeah. That does. Okay.
No.
How many people were in this room?
There's probably 8 to 10 people.
And you and Ron went down there.
Right, and his mom and stepdad met us there too. And because they wanted to have, and that grief counselor that lived in our subdivision, he was there. And I just said, that's it. Like, let's go. I just wanted to pack up. I wanted to go because they lived 4 houses down the street from us, right? And I was going to go destroy them.
Yeah, sure.
And our people blocked, the neighbors knew what was going on because Michelle had gotten this lined up, and they blocked us from being able to drive down to their house. So we parked in the driveway and we both tore off to run down there. And then people were holding us back because they were like, you can't, you have another daughter, right? So I don't know. I mean, it sounds like this is made up, but the only thing is we walked straight in that garage, and I grabbed an axe and Ron grabbed a hammer, and we pulled that stupid ass foosball table out, and we busted the living shit out of it. And then we loaded it into his truck, and we, on the box of it, spray painted Merry Christmas. And we drove down the street, he backed in, and we shoved it all out in their driveway behind their car. And then we came back home. And the Drews called the police.
I kind of love it, though, that you did that.
They called the police for destruction of personal property, and they wanted to file charges. So the police were down there, and Lori Drew in the police report, which we have still, stated that the reason that this all happened was because she created a fake account, again, to gain Megan's confidence, to see if Megan was talking about her daughter. The Drews then sent the daughter, the 14-year-old daughter now, down the street, like with their hands in there, like, what's going on? And people had to tell her to get home. It started a full-out war because my best friends lived right next door to the Drews. And so all of the family and the people were there, and it was this screaming match. And I kept trying to figure out, they had somebody watching me because I'm going to go kill that bitch.
Yeah.
I'm going to go kill her. And I kept running down the stairs trying to get around people because I wanted to go to her. And yeah, I couldn't. And I think, I don't know. It puts you in, it literally feels like you are absolutely psychotic. Like you are going through the stages of this god-awful grief. And then I found Megan. So I have all of these flashbacks of the post-traumatic stress, right? Which I still do.
I was gonna say
they'll never go away. I have to do this thing of like closing my eyes and like getting it out of there, almost like a shuffle on like of a picture is what I have to do to try to like shuffle it away from my head. And then it's like this sadness of my kid took her own life over this fucking joke. Are you kidding me? And then I can't do anything because I have Allison. And like, what are we supposed to do? And I think at the time I started writing in a journal how I was going to kill him because I didn't know what else to do. Yeah. I thought they don't deserve to live. They don't deserve to drive their kids around and do all of this when they were just kind of like, well, we really didn't do anything. Let's share our side of the story, right? Long story short, we finally did get an attorney. I called the most high-profile attorney that I knew because I worked at law firms years before this. So I called Scott Rosenblum, which I knew. And Scott Rosenblum contacted another attorney, a civil attorney. They started making calls. We were connected with the FBI. The FBI did do an investigation. They went down. Lori Drew loved to talk. So Lori Drew invited him in. gave him her computer, gave pancakes to him, loved sharing her side of the story. It wasn't really, she didn't really do it.
I could just
anything.
hear this bullshit of,
Yeah. Yeah. But
makes your fucking skin crawl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did everything I could do to make her life absolutely miserable. I tried running her off the road. I mean, not things I'm proud of now, but
Sure.
I mean, that's where I'm saying you have no because I didn't want to live anymore. I wanted to die. I begged to die. Even with my other daughter and the love that I had for her, I was in so much pain. And if I saw them out and I saw them driving down the street, I didn't care. I went straight at them. And they'd have to veer off the road. And it was one of those things of, your ass doesn't deserve to be around here, right? If they were going to have a garage sale, I stood at the end of the driveway and I screamed at them the entire time till they got their shit and put it in. She sold
It's so funny, like that does not seem unreasonable to me.
to other people. They probably look and think, you're trying to blame somebody for your daughter's death, right? You're trying to, I mean, she had a business that she would go and sell ads to businesses, like, those little coupon magazines that you get.
Yeah.
That was her business. And I saw her one time walking into a business. And I was taking my other daughter, Allison, to the orthodontist. And I said, Allison, you're checked in. And I thought, bullshit, this woman's doing this. So I checked Allison in. I walked straight down to that business. And she was in there trying to sell. I said, do you know who this woman is? Do you know what she's done? This bitch pretended to be a boy on MySpace, and my daughter took her own life. And then Lori left. I waited for her to leave. And then she walked down and went to another business. I thought, bullshit. So I followed her down that one. And I went in that one. I did the same thing.
Was this all public yet? Like, was this in the news yet?
No.
Okay.
Because everybody wanted to keep it quiet. First of all, there were a lot of people that did not believe us.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people that thought, oh, you're just trying to blame, right? Your daughter took her own life. It was not them. And then the other part was the attorney said, listen, do not until you have everything together. So, no, I followed her down there and did it again, and I was going to keep following her. And she walked out and she said, would you stop? And I said, I will never fucking stop.
Yeah.
No, I'm not stopping. And, I think it's when you feel so out of control that you can't, nothing's going to work, right? Nothing's going to make it better. It was just, for me at that time, it was this complete vengeance of, I needed her to feel, and I talk to, kids about this all the time, even adults that struggle so much with people that disrespect them or hurt somebody or harm them. And you have that instant thing of you want to get them back because you want them to feel what you are feeling, right? I wanted to take everything I felt. I wanted to breathe it in. I wanted her to know what it felt like, right?
Sure, of course.
And the reality of looking back, once you kind of pull and you start going through different periods, it realized that she would have never understood this pain, right? I mean, I'm grateful I never did what I wanted to do to her or her family.
Yeah.
Because we're here now, and Allison needed a mom and needed a dad. And, we went to a federal trial in Los Angeles. There were no laws here. Federal trial in Los Angeles, Michelle Mulford actually went and testified before the federal grand jury, and they indicted her on 4 charges. First time this type of a case ever had been anywhere, right?
But it's like basically writing legislation is,
yeah.
It's hard to be, I guess, you wish there were proactive, but the technology's ahead of the laws.
Oh, yeah, it still is today, right?
Yeah.
And, it was really United States versus Lori Drew, because what the U.S. attorney did, Thomas O'Brien at the time, it was the first time a U.S. attorney actually tried a case in like 30 years. And so it was because MySpace's headquarters were based there in California. So because of that, it
all
was
their servers and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was trying to, hacking Lori Drew, violating the terms of service. It was knowingly a lot of, different charges, right? She faced 20 years in prison. Long story short, I did testify. We went to the federal trial. Lori Drew was found guilty on 3 of the charges, misdemeanors though, and deadlocked on the 4th. We went to sentencing after sentencing. He kept continuing it. But finally, in 2009, the judge stated, listen, it's unconstitutional to convict Lori Drew, because essentially you would have to convict anybody who lied online, who lied about their age, who did this. And at this point, the ACLU had filed like 500-page briefs and worried about the First Amendment right and were they going to restrict, speech. At that point, I knew she was not going to be charged. I knew that it was going to be this way. And I had to tell myself in my head of like, okay, it's not about her anymore. I'm done. Like from this point, I don't want an appeal. I don't want to file civilly. I want to move on with this foundation. I've got to. Megan was more than this. And the reason and purpose of doing that was because vengeance wasn't going to get me anywhere, right? Carrying that vengeance hat every day of angry and mad and trying to figure out how it was going to get them back or what I could do was so heavy, so much. And Ron and I separated about 6 months after Megan passed away. And during that whole entire time, I was not a good mom. Before that, I was there in every single speck. At this point, I moved home with my mom. Allison was there, but I went out, I drank, I never did drugs, thank God. I was at least smart enough for that because I thought I'm stupid enough at drinking.
Well, self-medicating is...
That's all I wanted. I wanted to be numb. I didn't want to... And at this point, when the
pain,
news finally...
I hear, and the anger, and that's all like so real, and you had a right to every fucking ounce of it.
I didn't know what to do. How do you deal with that, right? And so when I went out with my cousin, I could drink, and for a period of time, I didn't have to be me.
Sure,
right?
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I didn't have to... or if people, when the news and all of that stuff started coming out, I didn't have to worry about the looks that people would give or the whispers that they would give or that's her, or the coming up to me, because then I could just get drunk, go dance. And I thought I was fun for about a solid 2 hours, and 2 hours of it. And then I was passed out. Right. And, I've begged Allison a million times over, like, I just didn't know how to survive. I didn't know how to be in my own skin. I didn't want to watch TV. I didn't want anything that was going to be funny. I didn't want anything that was going to be sad, right? I didn't know what to do because I was crawling out of my skin. And even though I started the foundation and started speaking, the only way I could escape it was for that period of time. But I felt like shit 10 times over, because then once the couple hours of fun went away and you could not be you, then that deep depression, it would just all come back in, right? Of like,
yeah. And
holy shit.
We say it here all the time. I mean, you're curing your depression with a depressant.
Yeah.
And it so when you wake up the next day, it's still there, and it's worse. And
right.
It is it is just a brutal cycle, because you do get that reprieve of a level of pain that I don't think anybody can even fucking comprehend at this point.
Yeah. But the crazy thing was, I would wake up the next day and I would be thoroughly exhausted. I would take her to school, and then it was almost like this panic thing of like, what am I going to do tonight? Because I can't be home all night, because if I'm home all night, then I'm thinking about this all night and I don't know what to do with myself. And so like, I have to know there's a plan where I can get ready and go out and go not be me, so that I could take a deep break from being this. And, it was probably a year and a half that I wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't drink on the weekends during the days, but I used it absolutely 1,000% just to cope and numb, not be me. I think thank God, I started settling down, and I started really with the foundation, trying to figure out, like, now what do I need to do, right? Like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep putting Allison through it. And I think that's the hardest part for people, is that I think even for what I was going through, you want it to stop, and everybody tells you it's time. It takes time. Take a deep breath. But when your entire body is like crawling, right? And you're like, I don't know if I can survive another minute. I don't know how to do this. Like, I just need it to stop. I was always searching to get it to stop, or just, I prayed to go to sleep. Just let me go to sleep, and please let me sleep so I don't have to think about it for a while.
And
right.
And one night, no nightmares. And
right.
It's unspeakable, that level of pain. I can't imagine it now. The only thing I can relate to is to drowning yourself away. I've been there. Jacob's been there. It's, why we're here today at IRC, but the self-medicating is now, you see it started for me at a young age, and I didn't hear any, but that's another level. What Megan getting bullied, kids are turning to, because if they get their hands on a bottle of alcohol in 6th, 7th grade, and like, oh, my pain's gone away for a minute, and next thing you know, they're hooked, and and there's a lot of kids that are getting experimented with drugs at a young age because it makes them temporarily feel better.
Right.
And that's the
fitting
scariest
in
part.
And doing the cool things and being a part of that, but it usually is that pain of like not feeling like you fit in anywhere, right?
Sure.
And I think, for me, thank God, I really started to slow down, and I met my husband now, who Derek always swears he saved my life. But it was finally to a point of where we moved into a townhouse, and I started really focusing on the foundation.
Sure.
And, trying to figure out what that so-called life was, but I was still trying to figure out our foundation, and our foundation's main mission is to support and inspire actions to end bullying, cyberbullying, and suicide. And, from back then when it started until where it's grown today, the message is still the same, right? We're trying to get parents and students and educators and everybody to understand bullying is not just a rite of passage, right? It's not just, the big blatant things. These are patterns that happen over time, and it can be really hard. We try to educate them on cyberbullying, and then, of course, the mental health piece of getting help and talking to people and about suicidal ideation. But the biggest piece is empathy, like this ounce of empathy of thinking, what if I was in their shoes, what would I need? If somebody I cared about was going through this, what would they need? And so our presentations and the work that we do, it's trying to save one life at a time, right?
Sure.
And so now I don't even drink anymore. I don't
Good
drink.
for you, Tina.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I would socially have a drink here and there, but I don't. Yeah, I don't. It does nothing for me.
A couple things that I think of in this turning point that you had is from, the anger and the vengeance that you had, and it's somehow, some way realizing that they were like big ankle weights on you, and not allowing you to progress and grieve, and that is, was it a one thing? Was it just was it the trial and being done and saying we got to focus on Tina and move and Megan, and that seems like if this, have they made a movie about this yet?
Yeah, we've done, ABC Family did a movie called Cyberbullying, not on actually Megan's story, but we did Web of Lies, Discovery ID, And so, yeah, we've done different things, and we're in talks right now with somebody in the UK, but Hulu or ABC, or I don't know. They're talking about different things now, but I mean, the whole reason of doing those is you don't get paid money, right? It's not like, oh, you get paid all this money, right, to do it. ABC, the one we did when they did Cyberbully, but the other ones, you do it because it's the awareness, right?
Yeah, amen.
It's
right.
getting the word out there. That's the whole purpose of it. But, you know, I think for me, it was, we went and I wanted to get laws changed, and this whole world blew up where we had satellite trucks out our house. They were, I mean, they followed you everywhere, did everything, and we're going through all of these things, and we go through the trial, and I'm flying back and forth, and it's like you're on autopilot, right? And then we go to that trial, and you're hopeful, but then they always cautioned and said, listen, this is a long shot. This is really about awareness to get this out here. And I knew when they were doing sentencing, I knew that they were not going to charge her. And I knew at that point in time, like I was divorced at the time. We were not getting along well. He was really struggling with it. And he didn't want a part of the foundation. He didn't want it. He couldn't talk about Megan. It was just too much for him. And I thought, I can't stay here anymore. Like, this is so heavy. I've got to focus on this part. Like, I can't. And so for me, it was like in that courtroom, knowing, okay, this is it. I'm done, and moving on. And it.
Well, if they did a movie about Tina Meier, that the reason I brought it up is because that seems like your turning point to put some really hard things to bed and make a conscious decision, which is fucking superhero stuff. I don't think I could ever. But to put to bed as much as you can what was just holding you back from grieving, and I mean, the anger is never our best, right? Like emotion. We have a right to it, but to stay there in a prolonged time is not good for you.
Right. So
like that turning point for you, and now to do such great work, and Megan's spirit lives on through the foundation, and you know, we always say if it helps one person, it's worth it. Well, we know that you're add a bunch of zeros to that. So I hope I really do. I just the courage and is in awe of it. You guys founded this, so can you repeat the mission again of the Megan Meier Foundation?
Sure. So it's to support and inspire actions to end bullying, cyberbullying, and suicide. But we do presentations, but the really other cool part is because then kids understand when they hear first, stories from people who have lived experiences, right? They hear it from parents all the time. They hear it from teachers, which is great, but it's lived experience because then they connect to it.
Right.
And once you do that, then you can step over that line of like talking to them about what do you need and where to go and who to talk to. And I think, we offer free counseling, which has been one of the coolest parts.
Yeah, that's cool.
Huge.
We started that in 2016, and now we offer free counseling like over 2,000 hours a year. And so we do it for kids in schools and telehealth in our office, and we want to keep expanding it because we want to make sure that the kids are getting those supports so that when things are happening, whether it's about depression or conflicts or whatever that may be, a lot of it's anxiety, of really trying to give them those coping skills so that when things do come up within their life, they can have good, healthy coping skills versus going and doing a lot of the anger, turning to drugs or sex or alcohol, to all of these risky behaviors.
Any self-medicating, numb the pain type of activity, for sure.
Right.
That is so, and it's such a young, like a pivotal age, where you had said, it sticks out, the 6th grade spring, and it's like, shit, they're still babies, but that's so pivotal. We did just Sunday, it's kind of I always joke that I need a segue, but we're a part of I'm a member of our church safety team, and
Okay.
we had the guy that leads it, a real good buddy of mine, is a two decorated, war hero, Army Ranger, and nicest guy in the world. But we had a 25-page PowerPoint for the team and the kids volunteers, and we're a pretty small church, and Clayton in the basement, but he said that with the 1.001% chance, or the worst of the worst, is an active shooter situation. And it's probably way higher than that. I mean, it's insane. But he said that they've gone in there's businesses that have come up for security at schools, especially in churches, and how do we stop this stuff? And they did this nationwide poll of educators, I think therapists, first responders, police officers, and military. And overwhelmingly, the number one cause of things like that is bullying.
Yeah.
And it really, everybody, it was the number one cause of somebody, and then there's a progression of ideation to follow through. Right. And it is so prevalent today. It's brutal. I always say that teenage girls are ruthless on each other. Beyond even, I think, traditionally, just the boys usually fight each other and it's over with. But right. But it's even bad there now. And especially with the cyber stuff, it is horrible. And to the points that you made on, they're like these death by paper cuts. Yeah. If you've heard that, it's all these little nicks of bullying that's hard to see. It's impossible to police, regulate. It reminds me of when a couple weeks ago Christina was on and talking about being sex trafficked. We all think we're going to see it. We're never going to let that happen under our watch. Right. And it happens right in front of our face all the time because it's way fucking more complicated than just, than we ever could imagine. And when you're in it, you're in it. And
right. Yeah, I think the bullying, the thing that schools have policies, we have laws, right? There's so many things that are out there. We've talked about it a million and one different ways. The problem is kids are smart, so a lot of this stuff, it doesn't have to be this big, huge physical fight or this big screaming match, right? Or on social media, they do it anonymously. They create fake accounts, right? Or they do rumors. Right? Spreading the rumors. It's the little whispers, the cough underneath when they're walking by, or the accidentally bumping into you. And you always think that it's the kids that are, that are picking on other kids. Something's got to be going on in their own life. Well, actually what the studies show is, yes, sometimes those kids that do it are the ones that do have some things that are going on, right? Sometimes they can be the kids that were picked on before and they figured out a way to kind of like flip the script. But a lot of times it is popular kids, right? Because they have good grades. They usually do well in school. Their parents are typically involved because they're in sports or they're in some sort of something within the school. And these are the kids that are not on the surface seen. And they're very smooth. Sure. Right? No one's going to tell on them. So these are the ones that do these little tiny poking you. And schools will say legally, like, we have to know, report it. If it's not on video where they can physically see it and hear what is being said and know what the intent is, because kids will say, oh, well, I was, it was a song lyric, or, I was just quoting something out of a movie, or it wasn't about them, or I accidentally tripped into them, or, they will. So if schools can't prove it, they can't apply consequences. So then when schools can't and kids tell, then the kids circle back around and like, seriously? Right. What a pussy. You have to go run and tell and cry to everybody about it? And so they struggle. It's why kids then don't tell adults about it, right? And
it's a vicious cycle.
It is, and it's not. And I think parents and schools and everybody want to know what, like that button of like push it of what is it.
I think nobody wants to say it, but there are kids out there that for whatever reason fucking get off on being an asshole and being mean.
yeah.
And they do get off on it, and it makes them feel good inside, whether it's a physiology thing or come from having their ass kicked when they were little, or but not all of them. I mean,
Right.
picturing kids that were just, and people laugh at it because they want to be cool, and it's just they do get off, and it could be your kid, could be my kid, and that you say that I'm never gonna let my kid do that, but fuck,
Right.
you don't know what makes them click inside always, and there are kids out there that do get off on this being a bully asshole.
They want that hierarchy, right? They want to feel powerful. They want to be
Something,
kids
yes.
to laugh with them. They want that group because they always do it around other people. So
Right.
they very rarely ever just do it individually on their own. They do it where other people, they have that support, because
Sure.
if that support's not there, they don't do it quite as much, right? But they need that show because they need to feel that like power for them, right? And that's where it's really hard, because these kids, other kids around, are not going to really say much to the popular kid, right?
No,
They want to fit in. So
there were times like you doing a self-inventory that I was a real asshole to one of our neighbor kids, and I love him to death to this day. And like, it took me getting my ass kicked a couple times, even by other people. And I thank my life for playing ice hockey my whole life, because you can eventually, you bark up the wrong tree and you take one, and then it fucking humbles you.
Right.
And that happened. I got my cage rocked, and then I started, okay, I got to stop being a prick. And I remember that moment, but I share that to try to be somewhat self-aware, and if people sit there and say I never did it, they're probably full of shit. But going back to laws and regulations out there, there's laws out there that said I couldn't start drinking whiskey straight at 13.
Right.
There's pretty sure there's laws against heroin, right? You know, I mean, people. But here we are. We have, we're almost on a wait list here.
Wow.
And you guys, so it takes more than laws and regulations. It takes awareness and fucking communication, I think. And that's what you guys are doing. And empathy that is lacking. Don't get off on your soapbox there. And then when the world, empathy is a life-saving gift you can give someone, I think, and not even know it.
yeah, I think people need a place to know. I think we live in a world where when you say I need help on any level, it is really hard to ask for help. Really hard. It's because you have so much shame of yourself, and you worry about what other people say, and so having to put yourself and mutter those words is so hard.
Yes,
but it's trying to talk to kids and especially get them to understand that there is nothing stronger than you can do for yourself. But I do realize it is hard. I suck at asking for help, right? Because I'm like, no, I can do it. You want me to help you carry your luggage? No, I got it, right?
Yeah.
It's on any level, right? It's like, I'm not going to fail. No, I can do it. I've got it. But I think that's the hardest part, because we've put in this world, you should handle your shit, take care of it.
And it's so vulnerable to ask for help. And we say it here all the time, when you ask for help and you really stop beating your head against the wall and trying to do it alone. Let's do it together. It's easier. You can,
right. Or I'm not like them.
Sure.
Right? I mean, no, I've got my shit together. That's them. I can handle it, right? Just suck it up, deal with it. It'll be, I can do it. It's always looking at, there's got to be somebody worse, that it can't be me.
Yeah. So your foundation has grown into do such incredible work. Iggy how did you guys meet?
How did we meet? I was at 590 at the time. I think, fifth or sixth time.
Which run?
Yeah. And I can't remember her name, but there's a lady from the junior league.
Okay.
They had just started a anti-bullying program, and I guess they needed somebody from the media that, would be a spokesperson, get the word out. And I said, sure, whatever help you need. They invited me to a meeting they had that night in an auditorium, and I sat in the back, and Sidney Wilhelm spoke.
Oh, yeah.
And I sat back there, and I cried like a baby. I mean, she's talking about how she had to eat by herself, how they would stand outside her house with lights on and yell at her, how they would walk by her eating lunch and smash Twinkies in her hair.
God.
And I'm like, oh my God, I knew none of this was going on. So I said, yeah, whatever I can do to help. I gave Sydney a hug. I said, thank you for sharing that. I said, you made me cry back there, but anything I can do for you guys, let me know. If I can get the word out, you need me to come with you guys or whatever. And I guess that was like probably the end of 06. And then I think she called me back sometime in 07 and said, are you familiar with Tina Meier and Megan Meier's story? I said, no, I'm not. And she said, Tina's starting this foundation in Megan's honor. She committed suicide. She's looking for board members. I think you'd be perfect for it. So that's when you and I talked, and I got done talking to you, and I said, hey, when do I start? I mean, how can I not be part of this? And that's it. I've been part of it. I mean, you heard her story. How can
I mean,
not
it's
be
like,
part of it?
right. I'm just, I can't wait to hear how to help more. When I feel helpless, you just want to jump in. But, and you were on the board,
Oh, he's on the board.
Yeah, I'm
He's on the board. Oh, how many meetings you make a year?
I was president for a while, but I didn't come to a lot of meetings. So
Well, you were running for mayor of Maryland Heights.
You know what? Iggy is a lifer. Like, here's
Sure.
the thing. He, throughout all of these years, has unconditionally put himself out there to help the foundation, for donations, spread awareness, gobble bowl, you name it, helping us get beer for the trivia night coming up.
Yeah.
Like anything and everything, he has been unbelievable through the years. And so, yeah, I mean, Iggy is Iggy. He's like family.
Sure.
He's there for life.
Well, I know that. I mean, you start collecting. I mean, it's for those that don't know. I mean, the Gobble Bowl like auction and raffle is people look forward to it all year because there's so many. You get so much cool shit every year, and if you follow Iggy online, he'll post some pictures of his living room, and it's just full of some of the coolest signed like things that everybody's like, I can't wait to bid on that. So
I got to the point I was getting so much stuff that I would cut back. I would say, okay, we got 100 things. We're doing 70. To the point that Tina in the new building, she got all my stuffed as
nice
bobbleheads and stuff in
Yep.
there from.
So you have a brick and mortar?
Yes, we are. Yeah, it's so exciting. We're going to have an open house.
Oh, really?
In August. We'll
Okay,
do a back to school one, but we've had it since 23, like December 23. But we did not move in until May of last year.
Okay.
So yes, but it was built in 1890 and 1900, and so there was a lot of things. We're still working on it, but it is about a little bit over 7,500 square feet.
Okay.
And we have 2 full counselors' offices. We've got expanded spaces for staff. We have a big art room where kids can do art. We've got an area where they can play games and do different things. We've got a big area for our conference tables, so meetings with families or board meetings
Sure.
or training. And then we have a whole third building that has 3 offices and a waiting room that is sitting vacant because I was going to rent it out, and we're finally to the point of like, if somebody walks in and scratches one wall, I think I'm going to puke. So right now I'm like, I'm going to wait for the right thing because I want it to really look for psychological testing. I want it to be assessment.
Interesting.
I really want something in the world of what we do, because then if kids can be assessed and have those because that's really hard, right? To diagnose what is it. They're expensive. The wait list is crazy ridiculous. Then you can find out what are the right therapies, right?
Yeah.
Instead of going for 3 years and finding out that you're doing the wrong thing, right? Then you can hopefully find that out. And so that is not an easy task. And so we'll probably have to collaborate with another organization that does that, just to provide more access to families and to kids, and
Sure.
to provide that so they don't have to pay $2,000 and $3,000 and wait 9 months.
Well, I mean, that's talk about the Lord's work. You guys are doing it. It's incredible work. I am I want to help. You guys have the trivia. You do Gobble Bowl, anything?
Golf.
And golf. Okay.
Oh, yeah, the golf. Yeah, the golf. This is, I think, 17th year coming up.
Wow. I mean, this
Wow.
is...
Yeah,
this
we
is-
did it from the very beginning. I think we started our first one like 2008, maybe.
Okay. So,
I don't know,
yeah.
I'm not paying attention to math, but yes. So that's
Stop
out at
counting after
Winghaven.
a certain...
Yeah.
After your 30th birthday, you stop counting.
Exactly. But that is phenomenal. It's usually sold out every year. It's really good out at Winghaven. And then we have the Gobble Bowl with Iggy every year, and then the trivia night. We don't do a gala because they're extremely expensive, and it cost a lot of money for people to come. And so we decided the cost ratio was not,
Sure.
we were going to be upside down. So we did trivia night because it's more economical for people.
Right.
Right. You can still have a really good time, spread the awareness,
Trivia
and
nights are
anybody
always
can
fun.
come.
They're always
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So that one's at St. Dominic. It's on May 3rd.
Okay.
And it's a Saturday. It's $25 a person. So we have beer and soda and waters.
We want to get a
There.
table if it's not sold out.
Yep.
We'll figure
Nope.
something out. We'll
you
talk.
are. We can talk
It's
about
on my
that.
it's on my Facebook page.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
click on it and go down to reserve a table, sponsor, all the stuff's on there.
Yeah.
My cousins, they own Olive and Oak and like to help with with the auction, and they've lost a child.
Yeah, they're great people. What they do over there too.
And I always hear, and I hear it in your story, that with the foundation, like, and when Jen, my cousin's wife, who, when Ollie, they had to take him off life support, he was 13 months old. She couldn't get out of bed the next day, and Maddie, his older sister, she was 5 at the time, was pulling on her to get breakfast, and the only thing that could get her out of bed was realizing she had to make breakfast. That's it. And then the foundation is given. It's been so life-giving, and it keeps Ollie's, heart still beating. And I just feel the same thing in my bones for what you're doing with the Megan Meier Foundation. And I'm so grateful for you being. I mean, this is such a vulnerable, hard story. I know, even more than the recovery stuff, this is going to resonate with. And it's so, they're so intertwined. People want to escape from the hard shit they're going through. And
Right.
just hearing it Sunday, and I'm like, just yesterday morning, we're recording this on Monday, I thought of it. They threw that statistic out that the number one thing that's causing kids to lose it and want to consider hurting a school and themselves is bullying. And it's, I mean, we and everybody, there's a lot of talk out there about stopping this, and it's still everywhere. And one of the things I was thinking about, I heard this on a friend's podcast, and I think he changed schools very good, but like now on social media, like your kid will see all the other kids at a party, and it's like passive aggressive bullying. Like, we didn't do anything wrong. We just had a party. Sorry you didn't make the list. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Like, get the fuck out of here. It's horrible.
Oh, it happens all the time, where I always talk about that. Like, your kid doesn't have to be like cyberbullied, right? They don't have to directly send messages to them, but it's their best friend that's not talking to them anymore. And then they're posting stuff on social media, and they're sitting there scrolling, and they see it, right? And think about that. Like, when you're scrolling and no one's talking to you, you're not getting invited, or they like the boy and they're hanging out with them, right? Or they got this and dad just lost his job and I can't do this anymore, right? So there's all of this stuff that happens, but we want our kids to talk to us. But think about if they said, well, they didn't invite me and they got this and they got that. And, sometimes as parents, you're like, well, stop comparing yourself to other people, right? Don't worry about what they're doing.
Right.
Well, and it's so hard for kids to be able to express what they're feeling because they're so hurt. And I tell adults, like, stop and think about this. Like, we scroll through and we see, somebody's lost some weight. Great. Somebody just got a promotion. Wonderful. They just celebrated their anniversary. Great. Their kids got into this 4-year college. They're playing sports. Everything's great. And by the 20th, you're like, man, fuck off.
Right.
Like, I'm so tired of everybody's happy. Everybody's great. I need to lose weight. Like, they got this, they got that. It's like, shit.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, to sit there and scroll and you start feeling that, then to say to like your spouse or somebody like, well, she's done this or well, stop being envious of other people. Stop worrying. It sounds so stupid.
It goes back to what Megan said to you. How would you do it if they were doing that to you in the lunch line?
Right.
Like, and it's still like, I will never forget that, because I all the time I'm telling, don't worry about that shit, hang out with other kids.
Right.
And you can go just the opposite too. Just being yourself. And you and I are friends with her, and I've talked to her, and you've talked to her, Lizzie Velasquez.
Yeah, she is sweet as can be.
Yeah, she was born with, different informalities or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, people have voted her ugliest woman alive and things like that. And she would take it with a grain of salt, but she'll post pictures. Like she posted one today, said, first time I've had makeup on since Christmas. I feel pretty. And you look at some of the comments, why don't you quit posting this shit? I'm like, come on, man. Yeah. I mean, you can't.
And these are adults.
You can't even be yourself on there
that are
without
supposed to be
people
teaching
taking
kids.
Oh, the
shots.
Instagram comment sections are brutal
Yeah.
on adults. Like,
Yeah.
it's terrible.
So you just try to be yourself on there too, and then you got people bitching at it. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's sad. It really is. Social media really is a sewer.
It's the armpit of the world right now, and that's. Yeah, I was telling somebody, a cousin of mine just had a baby, and I'm hoping my algorithm is like just pictures of Caroline. Like that's because it's like, okay, I can do that, but that's all I want to see. I don't want to.
Right. I just heard something that Mel Robbins, some people love her or not, but she said that, and I'm going to try it, that if you go onto your iPhone and you go to grayscale, like gray screen, it turns everything. They did this study where it turns everything to like black and white, and you are on your phone less because you're not getting the same like
sensory light.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
All right.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try
You
it.
need that.
I'm gonna try it. But here's the thing. I think if there's one thing for parents that are listening, and it's not that we have to have all the answers, because we don't, right? They're not going to tell us every single thing. And it's sometimes like if your kid comes to you and says, this is happening, instead of like what we always do of, I'm going to go to the school, or I'm going to go talk to their parents, or, why keep asking me? Or it's saying to them, like letting them speak, like listening, actively listening, right? Not doing 5 million other things, but actively listen to them and then say, repeat it. It's called validating. Validate their feelings, not their behaviors and their actions, but I'm sorry you really feel this way. That has to be hard. And how can I help you?
Sure.
What can we do, right? Is there something I can do to help you? Because then when, instead of it being like us taking control, kids always say like, my parents act crazy and psychotic because they all of a sudden get upset and they scream and yell and, right?
Yeah, that hits home. It is cool.
They worry about parents. They try to protect us too when we don't think they do. They do pay attention.
Absolutely.
They don't want mom mad or sad or dad. And so it's, when you do that, then they're more calm. They know that you've actually listened to them. You've heard what they said. You've validated it. And now it can be a thing of, hey, how can we work on this? Is there something I can do? Like, what are some thoughts of how could you respond, right? And instead of in a certain way of just ignoring them, because that's not an option.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's those things that we can do. It's just helping parents, teaching, learning about it all.
One of the most annoying things is when they come on have an event session with someone and they immediately want to fix it all. Like, no, just fucking listen. Just right now I need a listener. I don't need a fixer, somebody to run and fight. I just, and far too often that's exactly what, anytime Charlie starts talking about something, I'm trying to do just that.
I know.
And
I
this
do
is
it
a
with
really
my
good
daughter.
reminder. Yeah. I mean, and my wife is, she's a therapist, but she is a validator and an
Yeah.
empathetic human being, and we learned quite a bit about that. In fact, like we let it. I don't want to talk about it. My feelings doesn't really fly in our house, but he did say the other day, he's been through a lot, and he was going through something, and I think I might have said this before, but he's in a mood, and Ashley was like, "No, are you feeling what's this about?" And he said, "I'm just not in a great mood. I'm not having feelings." And she's like, "That's fair. That's fair. Okay, I'll stop being your therapist for a minute." But
Oh God, yeah. My daughter, she's 28 now, and yeah, I protected her through all the. I was going to be fixing right after all of that, and then through the foundation, it will be whenever I'll start to see, how are you feeling or whatever, and she'll be like, "Don't sit there and counsel me, Mom." Like, and I'm like, all right. So they do catch on when you start doing that, and they throw it right back at you, but it does really. They just want to be heard. That's the thing. Kids feel that sometimes they're not heard, and it's that's invaluable wisdom, and what a foundation. We'll share websites and your website, some event details. Yeah.
And if somebody, I'm sure, is that what you would say if somebody out there is struggling and they have a kid that's struggling, or a kid that's even the bully?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
They go to your website and know how to contact you guys?
They can call. It doesn't make that kid a horrible kid.
Sure.
It means that their behaviors,
Right.
they have bullying behaviors, right? So if we can flip those and talk about them and see what's going on, there are things that we can do, right,
Yeah.
to help them. So yeah, they can call us. We don't charge anything. They can call us. They can come into our office. We can Zoom them. Whatever it needs to be able to support and help them. And we'll give them resources, whether they live in Missouri, whether they live in Illinois, wherever they live. We will help in a way
Are
we
you
can.
guys in St. Charles? Is that where your office is?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where it's at. But we travel all over the place. So,
Well, the whole country needs
oh yeah,
this. So,
it's globally. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just awareness and education. But this facility and everything that you guys have is phenomenal.
Except for the wall here,
You know what? You
our
get
decoration.
you
We're gonna
put
work
up a
on it.
few
And
things.
he was supposed
that-
to bring me some pictures, and he.
Yeah, I left them inside. I actually got down to Tina's car, the second car I got into.
That's funny.
And we're driving. I said, I forgot I got 2 pictures I want to bring because Christina last week said, put something on your walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had 2 paintings I brought in. I left them there.
Well,
so.
the good news
Come
is,
on down for coffee at El Duce's or
You got it,
Cafe
right.
Dolce, and I'll bring them for you.
well, Jen heard us bitching enough about the decoration, and that was my strategy the whole time. That so she was kind of, she's part of the ownership group and works here, and she is responsible for all the decorating here. So,
Oh, okay.
so if I complained about it enough, in fact, she was like, "Is that a tablecloth hanging?" I might say that. So, yeah, it is.
It
He
is
did
a
wonders here.
tablecloth.
But here's the thing: you don't want everything distracting from what you're doing
Right.
either, right? So
Right.
that's kind of a
It's
hard
about the-
balance,
it's about the voices and
right?
the messages and
Yeah, I
you
think
know.
it's phenomenal. You're giving people a chance again at life, and so I think it's phenomenal. I'm grateful I got to come and see.
well, I'm so
And-
that's all. The pleasure's all over here. Where we appreciate you so much, and this is the mission of opening this place, and Jacob's responsible. He's our executive director, and
That's
for
a
our
fun
family
job.
therapy program, we had our family therapist on. It was our second or third episode this quote unquote season, and we bring in families to educate, and knowledge is power, and how can we support someone that's been self-medicating, and the trauma that's come through here, of what people are going through, and it's just too much sometimes.
Well,
as
and
you know
they're-
more than anyone.
They're good at hiding. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have, if you haven't ever gone through that or lived that experience, you just don't know, and they're good
Mm-hmm.
at it. And yeah, I think giving parents, I think that's the hardest thing is we want to fix it all, and we
Right.
We can't fix everything for them.
We have a couple that comes in that I know really well that their only child lost the battle to an overdose, and they come in and talk to the parents on Family Day and keep his memory alive by trying to educate. And the same thing, they tried everything, and it just, you can't control everything, and it was a horrible deal. But that's how, and they got a little foundation in his name. But there's so much in here that is adjacent. That going back to the mental health thing, we have a whole clinical team, 2 clinical directors that oversee, because we don't want to just treat the symptoms of addiction. We want to try to get to the bottom of what we're working on and leave with a plan, an outpatient plan. The group learning is what's critical in this space. So when you were on your way to a grief support group 6 weeks in, I was pretty impressed. Those can be life-saving. Any type of problem you're going through, there's probably a group out there, and we can't recommend them enough because you're not alone, and you're with people. You always say like-minded learning.
Right, yeah. That's what I think it's great about your foundation is that it's not just like calling a counselor. It's talking to other families and moms and kids that have been through it. Right. And anytime as humans, we have a problem, we think we're the only one. Oh, yeah. So once you hear somebody else that went through the same thing you did, now you listen. Right. And you believe you can get better and there's help for you. So I love that part of it.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's so hard too as parents because you feel like you should have all your shit together, right?
Always, yeah.
And then it's like going to any type of support group. It's kind of like, well, you have the walls up of like, no, I'm not like them, right? Like I can figure this out. I can do it. And it's like, it is hard. Once you get in, you realize it's just, we're all trying to figure this shit out, right? And it's learning from one another and knowing that's the biggest thing is that you're not alone, because you do feel so alone in these issues that you're having. So it's, I think, knowing that you're not alone, taking a deep breath, and sometimes you have to have people who understand, because if you don't, family and friends can get really tired of hearing the same thing over and over again, right? You see their eye rolls. Sure. You see the way that they handle, like that they get tired of hearing it. And so it's being in a place where other people are going through that, where you can talk about it and feel like, okay, like I'm not alone.
Right. It's life-saving. I mean, those groups are life-saving. And that's a great point, because your echo chamber, and then you think, they make one nonverbal and you think something, and then it turns into a whole thing. So that's that's super important.
Families and friends avoid and walk away from hard things when you're not the same person that you used to be, right? Or you aren't the fun one, or you aren't doing this anymore. Well, then it's like, they a lot of times will turn because they don't know how to deal with it, right? Or they can't see you in that pain. And so they avoid. So you start losing all of these people that you thought were supports. And then you really find out who your core people are, right? It's like when tragedy or things hit, you finally figure it out. And I finally figured it out. And it's all I ever need in my world, right? It's those people are my absolute go-tos always. Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on. This has been...
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for inviting us.
You're a hero. You really are.
I don't feel it. I feel like I'm a pain in the ass. I'm not going to give up. That's kind of my thing of like, I have Eminem's lyric taped to my computer that like I refuse. It's not to keep Megan's life alive. It used to be in the beginning, it was, but it's really more of... It's really taking that and it's helping, because I want it to go way beyond my lifetime, right?
Yeah, sure.
I know where she's at. I feel her. I know all of that. It's really, for me, I refuse to not continue going, because if I refuse to not go, you're not helping another person. You're not helping another family. And that I can't do it. So it's how I breathe.
It's a calling now, right?
That's what I think it is. Sometimes I look above and I'm like, okay, so this is what you had for me. Okay. But it is worth it. It's on the good days when you can't change the past. On the good days, there's always a reason you go to places, right? So I thank you guys for what you do.
Wow.
Every day. It truly is. It's all about helping others.
And to the whole point, we want to spread help and break stigma and just continue to remind people that they're not alone and help is out there.
Yeah.
We always say it's the hardest thing to do is make the call. I said that this morning 3 times on a text message.
Yeah.
My phone, I don't know about you, but my phone was blowing up late Saturday night and Sunday. Mardi Gras, I might have made people think they had one too many, and they'd start dipping their toe into what does it look like. So the Mardi Gras, some people might have had too many hurricanes. And
was Mardi Gras?
Saturday was the...
I am that lame that I was at the office working.
Well,
so I didn't even know it was Mardi Gras.
About 5:30, 6 o'clock, we went to the Blues game, and I was getting off 44 Lafayette, and there's that Walgreens right there, and I think that's where Uber was picking people up, and they're just zombies walking into Ubers. And then
at least they're using Uber.
Sure, and that's when I started getting texts from people that wanted to dip their toe and making a change, because I think that Mardi Gras could sometimes. It was St. Pat's. My last bar fight was St. Pat's, downtown Belleville, and then I checked it a week later because that's when it was enough. So
Yeah, you're a lucky guy. You have Italian and Irish in you.
Right, set up to
Yeah,
fail.
me too.
Nice.
And German.
Well, I can see that. No wonder why you were ready to take somebody out.
Yeah.
We next Mardi Gras should go down there and just hand out business cards probably.
Right.
See. But you're a hero, and I believe this, that real life heroes don't ever feel like they're being a hero.
Yeah, I don't feel that at all.
You are to a lot of families, and so is Megan. God bless you, and I cannot thank you guys enough for driving out here to do this. And I'm really, really excited for people to hear this. It's important to sit in the discomfort, but it's so worth it to hear this story. And I mean, everybody is impacted by this shit. Everybody, 100% of people are impacted by. Like Iggy said, he's got 24 nieces and nephews. I mean,
right?
Everybody's impacted by kids and bullying and even grown-ups that do it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what Tina... I tell Tina this all the time. I say, I don't know how you do it every day.
Yeah.
And she said, look, if I can help somebody, I'm going to do it. And she wanted to go kill that family after her daughter committed suicide. I would want to kill somebody if they just said bad things about my niece.
Right.
She goes, oh, he said something to me. Where does he live? Where does he live? So
address
to have to deal with this and talk. I mean, talking today, probably have a meeting tomorrow, talk about tomorrow, go on a show, talk about it. She is a saint to have to do this every day just to help people.
It's a warrior stuff, man. It really is. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, but it took me, I'm not that great, because it did take me a long time to finally forgive those adults.
Have you you've gotten to a place of forgiveness?
Yeah, finally.
That's
not for them.
Sure.
Absolutely
Understood.
not for them, but for me. But I always refused. Because I was like, okay, sure, I'll forgive them. Bullshit. And I would say, I'm not going to wish I don't want any bad karma. I've got enough of that shit. But I was like, if we were in a desert, it was 5,000 degrees, and they needed a drop of water to survive, and I had 50 gallons of clean water, I'd drop all that shit in the bottom, the ground. And sand, they do not get a drop. And the weirdest thing, I'll tell you really quick because it's late, but is I was with my husband, and it was at a funeral, and it was a black church that did this black. So there's all this singing and all of this,
yes.
Right? And I was
celebration of life is what
absolutely.
I was just
Singing's
talking about
phenomenal.
this recently, where some the traditional white funeral, we're doing it wrong.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, you go there and it is
charity that one,
talking about their life. It's totally different world. And so I was sitting there at this small little church in Charleston, Missouri, and the preacher, I'm not sure which he was.
Denomination, right.
Was talking about how we always wait to say, oh, they were great people, or they were this, and we hold on to things for so long. And behind him were hands, and the hands were like, holding up, and then there was like a dove where it was kind of released. And I was just looking at it, and all of a sudden it was just like this, I don't know, chill in my body. And tears started rolling down my face. And I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. And I don't.
It's the Holy Spirit, man. That's crazy.
I don't know.
I feel it.
And Derek, my husband, looked at me because he's like, are you upset or crying? Because, and I'm like,
Right.
Don't, because I like
in
once,
later.
he knows when I'm like, that it will floodgates and I won't be able to breathe. And so thinking about, sometimes men say the wonderful things, right? So I'm like, finally like, whew, I'm done. And we get outside and he's like, what is going on? And I told him and he said, I've been telling you to do that for years.
Super helpful.
He's
Thank
pretty.
you.
He's a confident man. He saved
Oh
your
my
life.
God.
Right.
I'm like, you shit, really, please. But it's, I don't know why. I can't explain it.
And that was you releasing this.
Done. Like, done. I'm not, when I think about them, I don't want to talk about them, but I don't have that where it boils up inside still.
Well, that's even hopeful for parents that are really, or people that are hear this that are struggling right now, that are in the pit of anger and
oh my God, yes,
that they think they can't do another. You said this, that you can't survive another minute of this pain, and here you are.
I would sworn you that I couldn't have survived this. There's no way possible. And
God, you're so strong.
You can laugh and you can smile and you can do something good in this world. It does take time and finding the right supports and knowing that you can't do it alone.
Sure. And you can find joy again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen. Tina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Iggy, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Out. I appreciate the support with the podcast, and we're gonna pump this out, and it'll release next Monday, and we're excited to get people to listen, and I think it's gonna impact a lot of folks, and looking forward to support the foundation in any way. I already got some ideas flowing, so I'm excited.
We're just, you can even just come do trivia.
You got it.
Like,
we're gonna have a
that's
table.
phenomenal too. Yeah. So.
We're not very good at trivia.
Oh, I'm not either.
Jacob's horrible at it.
I can type the words into the PowerPoint, and then when I see it behind, I'm like, what is that? Because I just don't pay attention to it. I'm like, Yeah.
Well, we're excited for it. We'll make sure we get signed up and pump up the foundation and see how any way we can help. Call me anytime. I'll make sure you have our contact information. But anything we can do here, or if there's other families that come to you and there's tour, they want to take a tour, where we'd love to. And this stuff is so intertwined. So.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Once you get back here.
Right.
It is beautiful.
It was a drive from St. Charles. But yeah, we are tucked back behind a park and in a neighborhood. And
just to be able to walk outside or have that ability, that's nice. Breathe air. And
especially now that the weather's getting nicer, there'll be bags tournaments going on during break and all that. So.
Right.
Thank you so much, Tina.
Thank you.
Well, we
I appreciate
you
you
guys so much.
Thanks for all the work you guys are doing, too.
Thanks.
Great effort and great job.
Well, appreciate it. It's one day at a time always. And there's always, I said this recently that I was stuck and it was a trivial, work thing. But it was everything to me at the time. And I was told somebody, I'm like at this crossroad of fear and hope. And when I focus on hope, it leads to the best outcome always. So Thanks for spreading that, and we'll keep on keeping on, and anything you need, don't hesitate.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Same
Tina.
for me.
All right, guys, thanks a lot for listening, and please support the foundation. It's meganmeyerfoundation.org.
Yeah.
And Meier is spelled MEIER.
IER.
So I want to make sure that's out there. So
Yeah.
people don't. It's I like that spelling of Meier. It's
Yeah, that was his, so German.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Got it. I like it. So meganmeyerfoundation.org, and we'll post all the links in the notes and on socials.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. As always, let us pray.
If you're struggling or know someone that is, please have them check out our podcast and reach out to Chris or me. We want to listen, and we're super eager to help. Our music is Anti-Hero by McCall and Gentle Waters by Wild Wonder. For more information, visit pondoffsanonymous.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram.